Are you able to hear me now? There we go. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is so good to get to be together this evening as we take a moment to breathe from a week that has passed. I think that there is a tremendous amount of wisdom that comes from Shabbat, coming because, not because we, set something out, but rather something that is completely beyond us. The sun sets and it reminds us that no matter how many things we have on our to-do list, that last thing that we're hoping to get done before the end of the week, that we have to have the opportunity simply to stop and rest. And there's so many different ways that we do this, so many different things that we do when we take that time to stop. And so we come together and we celebrate powerful and incredible moments in our lives. And so this evening, in addition to celebrating this holiday of Shabbat, we are celebrating with Gwyn and her family as she takes her first steps as an adult in our community. And this evening as well, we have the opportunity to be together and have some sweetness, some music, some song. And so I want to note that we are going to be brought into this holiday with the incredible music of both our very own David York, who is up in the organ loft right now. And so, yes, we don't usually applaud, but I do want you to hear that one, David. Yeah.
Is he in his pajamas?
We'll have to ask him later, yeah. And this evening, we welcome our full clergy team together. We are welcoming home to Temple Israel our very own Cantor Marvin Finnley, who is singing and bringing us into this holiday. We tonight are in for a treat. So let's get into it. Let's join in right now and let's let ourselves be brought into this holiday with the words of ancient and with the melodies that sit right on our hearts, the beautiful organ that we have in our community, the sacred instrument that, just like our voices, brings breath, what is the substance of the very soul, to life in the form of song. And tonight, let us enjoy this holiday. We begin on page 10.
And I'd just like to say a couple of words. I'm very happy to be here tonight, not only because this is my home, this is my community, but I'm here also to listen to an old friend. That organ and I spent 31 years making music together, and it's so uplifting for me to be here again, singing with the organ, under, of course, the able talent of David York. So thank you all for having me here, and let's begin.
We'll start on page 10 of our prayer books.
And please join, if you know it, even if you don't. we continue with our music, our introductory music.
They're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you
Okay.
at home, because so I'm gonna
Okay.
put you a little closer.
Is this mic working? David, can you hear me? I don't know. He's rushing a little bit, so I don't know if he can hear me. Hello out there. The wonders of technology. And now let's turn in our prayer books to page 12 and sing another psalm. This time it's Lechu Neranana, and we read, "Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai, raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song, for Adonai is a great God, the great ruler of all divine beings." Lechu Neranana, Lechu Neranana, Lechu Neranana, Adonai. Lechu Neranana, Lechu Neranana, Lechu Neranana, Adonai. Now we're going to turn in our prayer books to page 20 and sing Lecha Dodi, the Sabbath Bride. And I believe they already know what we sing, right? Okay. Verses 1, 5, and 9. I'm so
Well, please be seated. So now we have warmed up with Kabbalat Shabbat, a blessing given to us from the Kabbalists of Tzfat who wanted the opportunity to warm up our hearts, our voices as we entered into this holiday. We now begin our holiday proper with the lighting of our Shabbat candles, and it seems only right, as this is an evening of beginnings, that we call up Gwen and her family to light these candles. You'll notice as well, as Gwen's family is coming up, that there are not two as we normally have, but in fact 3 candles that are here. Can you hear me on this one? Okay. All right. So you'll notice that our candles are set differently this evening. And that is to remind us that there is something in our world that is quite simply not right. We know that there are members of our community who are still today being held hostage, who were taken on October 7th. And so this Shabbat and every Shabbat, when we pause to light our Shabbat candles, we have another candle set out here to hold the light of hope and to remind us of those who are still being held captive. May we remember them. May they come home soon and swiftly. We also offer this prayer of hope and blessing for Israel. Our God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessing for the state of Israel, for all of Israel's inhabitants. Source of life, bless and strengthen those who defend the land and ensure their safe and speedy return home. Protect them, God. Guide them. Holy and blessed one, show Israel's leaders your path, so that they may act with wisdom, courage, and dedication, and that they may be unwavering in their pursuit of peace. Strengthen their hearts, but keep them from hardening. Freer of the captives, return all those who are kidnapped safe and sound to their homes, without the spilling of more innocent blood, without any more souls being tarnished by horrific acts. Master of compassion, help us to hold the humanity and the heartache of the Jewish people, while also holding the humanity and the dignity of the Palestinian people. As we are made in your image, remind us of your ways. Spread over us your shelter of peace, and fulfill the vision of your prophets. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. They shall never again know war. Let us say together, Amen. Well, we continue now with the Baruch Hu, giving thanks for the strength of this community, each and every generation of it, and each and every member as well. This prayer is all about turning to one another and giving thanks for being a part of such a robust, strong, and tightly knit Jewish community. You'll find the words for Baruch Hu on page 28. Please rise in body or in spirit. Page 30. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv arabim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakochabim, b'mishmeroteim b'rakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, b'choshech mipnei or, Uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom ubein laila, Adonai tzevaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch alenu leolam vayed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Continue on page 32. Page 34. As we continue our Shema prayer, I'd like to invite up Gwyn to lead us in the Via Hafta. I'd like to invite the rest of the congregation to please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושמנתם לבניך ודיברתם בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Well, there's a commentator that wonders about the different sections of the Torah and has a comment on this particular moment. It's one of his favorite sections. The Netivot Shalom is the name of this Hasidic commentator. Because he says that it's unusual when we get to do something not just with a bit of intention, not just with our mind, but that we do something where it literally takes every part of our own being. When we sing, literally, every part of our physical self resonates with the song that we are offering. And it's an unusual thing to have something that can connect, not just musically, not just where our whole selves are singing and our minds are offering also what is, also offering prayer, but also words that span far beyond each of us individually to generations and generations who have come before us, offering these very, very same words of Mi Chamocha so many generations ago at the parting of the Red Sea, as our people have come together on Shabbatot and other times of good and sweet moments together, and years and generations bringing us to this moment where we get to echo those same words, not just from generations, not just spanning years before, but with our whole selves today and for the many years into the future. Let's sing together with our whole self. On page 40, you'll find the words of Mi Chamocha.
Mi Chamocha b'lim Adonai, Mi Chamocha neder v'kodesh. Nora tehillah osef eleh, Nora tehillah osef eleh. Malchutecha ra'u v'necha, okei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam. Anu ve'yam Yes, the Vashamru. Technology. Please turn to page 44, and let's all join in singing the Vashamru that I did every week for 40 years. Vashamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asov et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam b'rit olam. Vashamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asov et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam b'rit olam. B'nei uven b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Vashamru b'nei et ha-Shabbat la'asov et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam b'rit. Sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Vashamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asov et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam b'rit. Vayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. Vashamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asov et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam b'rit olam.
We continue on page 46. Please rise in body or in spirit.
Adonai, Zafatai Tivta, Ulfia Kitehilate. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Imoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Noah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor VaHanora, Elyon, Omer Chasedim Tovim, Ekonei HaKol, Ezocher Chasei Avot V'Yomahot, U'mevii Gula V'neihem, Le'man Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer V'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah. Chaye Achot Berachamim Rabim Tomech Ochlim Rofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Emunato חמוך בעל גבורות, ומדום אליו, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה.
ונאמנתה להחיות הכל.
ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל.
אתה קדוש ושירה קדוש, וקדושים
בכל יום
יהללו
חסרה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We continue silently, either using words on the pages to follow or other words we might find in our hearts. Join together again on page 62. When you've completed your prayer, please be seated.
On page 60, Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amracha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amracha, Tasim Leolam. Ki ata melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'necha levarech et Amcha Yisrael, v'chol leil v'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. As I mentioned when I was introduced, that I came to hear an old friend. And it's bittersweet because I know the organ represents a heritage that I don't want to lose for this congregation. A heritage that brought a rabbi from from Germany, Nazi Germany, to this country to become rabbi of this congregation, and who loved the organ so much because he had grown up in a great synagogue in Danzig, where his father was a rabbi, with a very, very large organ, where concerts were given, choirs sang. And he came to this building, and what did he find? He found this little crude orgatron, which sounded like a calliope. And he set about to raise money to buy a pipe organ because there was, even at that time, it was not cheap to build a pipe organ. And they're all handmade. You don't go out to IKEA and find a pipe organ there. So he raised money, and the product was this organ. It's small, but it's really quite capable of some beautiful sounds, and it needs some work at the present, so I hope that subject might be addressed at some point. I'd just like to talk a little bit now about the organ as an instrument. I'm just curious because most of the people I see here probably are of an age where you've heard organs before, but is there anybody out here that's never seen or heard an organ? Well, okay, I can get rid of half of what I'm going to say now. Anyway, from just looking at an organ and then looking at a piano, you might think there's some relationship. They both have a keyboard. They both have a person that sits at it and uses fingers to create music. But that's the end of it, really. An organ is more closely related to a flute or a trumpet, whereas the piano is more closely related to a drum. Pressing a key on a piano creates a tone by causing a little hammer underneath to pop up and hit a string. And immediately the sound dies away. When you hit that string, it's never as loud as it is at that moment. From the instant after that hammer hits the string, the sound goes away. Whereas with an organ, which uses a pressurized air flowing through a pipe, as long as that air is flowing through that pipe, that note is sounding. So the difference is very stark at that point. The other differences are that a piano has how many keys? Anybody know right offhand? 88. Good job. And how many keys can be played at once on a piano? I heard it. 10 keys, okay? So you can get 10 notes out of a piano at once. That's it. Organs, on the contrary, can have anywhere from hundreds of pipes to thousands of pipes, and all those can be played at the same time, if you want to. An organ can produce a massive amount of sound, whereas a piano in a small room, or even maybe in a room this size with good acoustics, sounds fairly loud, but I could ask David to play the full organ, but I don't know. Thank you. And remember, that's coming through a little piece of felt material up there. If that wall weren't there, it'd be probably 3 or 4 times louder. And that's a small organ. If you go to Carnegie Hall, or you go to the Rockefeller Center, or you go to even the Kennedy Center, or Disney Hall has an organ. They're massive. They have thousands of pipes. So that's another difference, that the organ is capable of much more tone and many more colors. The piano has, when you hit a note, that's how it sounds. There's no way of making it sound differently, that particular note. You can make it a little softer by hitting the damping pedal, which just basically shifts the action over so that instead of striking 2 strings or 3, you're only striking 2. But you really can't change the coloration, whereas with an organ, you have pipes that sound totally different all over the place, and you can play those together with other pipes. You can completely change the sound of the organ. So there's a lot more of variation that you can get out of an organ. Now, the organ, when it's being used as an accompaniment, which it is a lot, not as much as a piano, of course, is capable, just like a singer, of holding a note whereas a piano, you have this it goes away after a while. So in supporting a choir, a large choir especially, where there's very quiet passages or very long passages where the notes for the accompaniment don't change, piano can't do that. The pianist has to keep striking the keys to reinforce the tone. So it's not very good for accompanying a big choir singing classical music where there's a lot of phrases that are very long. A piano just can't do it justice. Now, where there's motion, where the keys are moving, where the notes are short, they're not long notes, piano's fine for that. But again, if there's a large choir, it doesn't work very well. So the fundamental difference centers around that difference, or that is the fundamental difference, that how the sound is generated and how it can accompany singers. And so another thing I'd like to talk about right now is dispel the notion. Now, and I've been a cantor actively for 42 years, 43 years in 2 synagogues. And invariably, questions I've always had, where the first question was, that's not Jewish music. That's not a question, that's a statement. Why did you sing that, Cantor? That doesn't sound Jewish to me. Okay, so that's the first. I won't go into that because that's a whole other discussion. The next thing is, I feel like I'm in a church with an organ. Now, my former synagogue had an electronic organ, which, again, doesn't compare to a pipe organ because the sound of an electronic organ is coming out of 2 speakers or 3 speakers. So it's all coming out of just 2 distinct areas, whereas a pipe organ, especially large pipe organ, it's coming everywhere. It's a huge dispersed tone. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. In ancient times, now maybe some of you already knew this, in ancient times, during the 3 festivals of Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, you had thousands, hundreds of thousands of people coming to Jerusalem. The celebrations were massive. You had singers, you had choirs, you had instruments. And the Levites were responsible for the music. The first temple built by Solomon, we know, used bells and up to 120 shofarot. In several passages, the Torah mentions other instruments in temple services, such as the hollow reed pipe with finger holes at one end, like a flute, drums, of course, harps, strings, and something called an ugav. Now, it's a difficult word because we don't really know what the intent of that word was in ancient Hebrew, but we know in modern Hebrew, ugav means organ. But today, in translations of the Torah, it's usually translated as pipes. So when we do Psalm 150, let us praise God on the harp, the strings, and the pipes. So, but scholars, from my reading, scholars feel that in ancient Hebrew, the word referred to a primitive organ called a hydraulis. Now, the history of that particular contraption, we would say, is interesting. How many of you saw My Big Fat Greek Wedding? Everybody, okay. Do you remember the scene in the car when the father of the bride is driving and he's explaining that everything comes from Greece, even Windex? In this case, he's right. The hydraulis, the organ, the ancestor of that instrument up there, was invented in Greece by a Greek 300 years before the Common Era. What they did, this is a very bright individual, obviously, and in ancient times they had geniuses, they had scientists. They had a big sealed, I don't know how large it was, but a big sealed container, and it had 2 pipes. One pipe on the top, I'm hypothesizing. One pipe attached to this hydraulis, this network of pipes, and another tube at the bottom attached to a source of water pressure. And so when they sealed this pipe up, they just had those 2 holes. And if they sealed that top hole that was attached to the pipes, just think of it now, when they induced water into it, because at first it's just full of air. When you induced water into it, as that water filled it, what happened to the air above the water? It's compressed. It creates pressure. Okay, now you have this pressurized container, and you open that valve at the top, and you induce that air into the system of pipes, and voila, you can now play all the pipes at once. Whereas before, these pipes, they called them pan pipes. You've seen maybe pictures of the god of Pan playing these pipes, were played by a single individual blowing over the top of the tubes one at a time. Now you had basically an organ. You had a primitive organ, but it became very popular in Greece. It became very popular in Rome. Even the Roman emperors had them. And scholars feel that the word uga more than likely referred to this hydraulis. So it was in wide use, as I said, up until, of course, the Second Temple was destroyed in 70 CE. After the destruction of that temple, well, we pretty much all of us know, the diaspora and the fact that Jews changed their services to one more of sadness and pain about the loss of the temple, and so there was the motivation to celebrate, be happy, was gone, and we had these hundreds of years of people running around in black coats and waiting for the Mashiach to come back. So that's the situation. There were no organs, but interestingly enough, the early Christians forbade the use of organs in their early services because, hey, that was a Jewish thing. We don't want to do anything Jewish. So here you have an interesting situation where now the Christians didn't want an organ because it was Jewish. But as the story continues through the years, especially when composers in Christianity started writing large choruses for the glory of God and building big cathedrals, they put in large organs for the simple reason that, again, how do you accompany a choir, a large choir? Well, you have two choices. You can hire an orchestra and pay a lot of money, or you can hire one person to play an organ. Economics rules, and organs took over in Christianity. Now, about the time of the Enlightenment, during the latter part of the 18th century, some Jews began to believe that orthodoxy was driving away Jews, and they desired to modernize their worship services. In 1810, a Jewish philanthropist dedicated a synagogue that employed an organ and a choir during prayer and introduced German liturgy, which, of course, you never would have had in orthodoxy. So you would have the vernacular. You had the service in German. In the next few years after fits and starts and much opposition, by the way, of the Orthodox community, the Reform movement was born. One of the hallmarks of these new services was a desire to have grand music in a grand building. How many of you have been to Europe and seen some of the synagogues that survived Nazis and seeing what glorious buildings there are with the stained glass windows? And you think it's a church, but it's a synagogue. And they have big organs. When Reformed Jews from Europe came to the U.S., they brought with them the desire to have organs to accompany the music. For example, anybody been to the Central Synagogue in New York City? It's got a huge organ with 4,345 pipes. Temple Emmanuel has several organs large in the building. It's one of the largest synagogues in the world. So Temple Israel, now we come back to Temple Israel and Rabbi Kelter. I mean, for him, it was a must to have an organ. He organized a big fundraising campaign. They raised the money to buy this organ, to have it built, I should say, and hired Lloyd Holtzgraf. Anybody here remember Lloyd? A few people still. Yeah, I worked with Lloyd for a long time. He came, Rabbi Kelter hired him in Rabbi Kelter, I think, came in 56, and I think in 57, he hired Lloyd, who at first played that little orgatron, and after they, of course, built the new organ, Lloyd played that, and Rabbi Kelter used to have Lloyd play Bach. before services, because that's what he grew up with. He grew up with these concerts where they had Bach in the temple and choirs. And so let's see here. Well, that's kind of the end of my little talk tonight, but I just wanted to say that I was so fortunate to find, when Lloyd retired, I was so fortunate to find the gentleman that's upstairs there now. And I hope that we can continue to hear the organ played in our new sanctuary for many more years, because it's not a church. The organ, it really recaptures some of our ancient history. And I think it's wonderful. So thank you all for inviting me here tonight. And that's it for my spiel here.
Thank you, Cantor Finnley, for teaching us, for helping lift up an instrument that has lifted up the members of our community for so many years. I know that I gain a greater appreciation and a greater love for something when I get to learn more about it. And so I'm going to be thinking about every time we do Psalm 150 and we read about and offer the different blessings for the different instruments, I'll be thinking about our organ. We have another May 30th. We have another organ Shabbat where we're going to be focusing on organ music as well, continuing this rich tradition in our community. Cantor Finnley, it's a gift. Thank you.
Actually, do you want me to do the Nasim Shalom?
Yes,
That
please.
was on the menu, I think.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to end my little segment here with another song, appropriately accompanied on the organ. It's Nasim Shalom. Is it in the prayer book? I don't think it is. Nasim Shalom. Tova Uvracha. I think it is, but anyway. Okay, Maestro. Nasim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Hein v'chesed v'rachamim. Nasim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Hein v'chesed v'rachamim. Let the light of your presence be the light of our lives. Grant us happiness, mercy, and peace. May the people of Israel join hands with our world and a passion for justice increase. Nasim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Hein v'chesed v'rachamim. Nasim Shalom, Tova uvracha, Hein v'chesed v'rachamim.
We know that music has a really powerful role in our lives and seems to be able to reach through even at times when we feel like other things can't. And so each and every Shabbat, we take a moment to turn our hearts and think of those who are in need of healing in our community. And it's not for without good reason that when we do so with music. I want to invite us to take a moment and open up our pamphlets and take a look at the names of those who are in need of healing in our community. If you see someone on this list that you haven't talked to in a little while or that you haven't seen in a bit, I want to invite you to send a text message, offer a phone call, connect with this person. There are many ways that we call for healing together as a community, and this is one of them. I'd like to invite those who are joining us online to share the names of those that they're thinking of in the chat at this time, and for all of us to turn our hearts to those members of our community who have recently come onto our Misha Berach list. So I invite us to think together of Cheryl Abiram, Tracy Baskov, Howie Cohen, Judith Judson, Kathy Marianetti, Susan McDaniel, Delilah Sappenfield, Craig Spivak, and Deb Zamora. If you are here in our sanctuary and are thinking of someone in particular on this Shabbat, it's our custom to invite you to rise and to share their name as my eyes meet yours. If two of us share a name at the same time, that's okay. I'd like to invite us to share these names. We add to these names Cecilia Rakush, Olivia Escoboza, Maxine Lynn, Michelle Dunn, Robert Saltzman, and Alan Goldstein. I'd like to invite all of us to turn to the words on page 253, and let's sing together as one. We continue together on page 282. Page 282 with the Aleinu, please rise in body or in spirit.
Adon HaKol, Latei Gdula Yotzeh Breshit, Shelo Asana Kagoye Havatzov, Velo Samanu Kemishpachot Hanama, Shelo Som Chalkenu Kohem, V'god Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, Anachnu Koreim Umishtachavim Umodim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'nemar Adonai Lemelech al kol haaretz Hayom hahu yeh Adonai echad U'shemo
Please be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those in our community who have died in recent days or in this season in years past. If you are joining us online, I invite you to share the names of those that you are thinking of in the chat at this time. And for all of us, there are times where we simply need to remember those that we loved. It's not every moment of every day, but we have been changed because of people in our lives. And we need the opportunity to say that we love them still, even as we continue with steps they don't share with ours. And so we pause when we are together as a community, as a minyan, as one, in the hopes that we can offer up the bittersweetness of their memories and have a bit of comfort in doing so. I invite us to share in the grief, to hold in our hearts all of those near to Wendy Miller, to hold in our hearts Paula and Julie, and Andy, Mary, and Rachel. And those near as we remember Lainey Eichler, as we hold in our hearts Pam and Steve, and Josh and Nova and Lily. And as we remember Irving Israel Simon, to turn our hearts as well to Aaron and Rebecca Talby, little Elias and Ezra. In addition to holding Shiva and Shloshim, the 7 and 30 days after the death of someone near to them, I invite us as well to turn our hearts to those who are observing the yard site, the anniversary of the death of Louis Adler, Amalia Appel, James Bollingmo, Gita Bushetsky, Sadie Dover, Julius Eichler, Dan Finkel, Marion Finnley, Habib Gabayan, Fanny Gabayas, Ida Greenbaum, Sydney Hartman, Sylvia Heilbrunn, Richard Lager, Arnold Lander, David Lander, Esther Lander, Selwyn Lederer, Bertha Levin, Carol Litwin, Lillian Muehlberg, Ida Nahum, Pat O'Connor, Maurice Odiz, Evelyn Perlman, Mary Pomper, Pamela Ratner, Fred Rayer, Adolf Reigenstreich, Dwayne Ribordi, Marcel Solomon, James Ellis Snyder, Gerda Seifer, Robert Schwimmer, Shirley Shane, Maurice Silverston, Michelle Sloan, Barbara Sugar, Michael Tate, Rose Warren, and Robert Weinblatt. If you are remembering someone in particular on this Shabbat, it's our custom to invite you to rise now, and if you choose to share their name as my eyes meet yours.
Susan Sher DeSile and Bill Millman.
Nursing Esther Paladin and Diane Pike. Annie Gomez. Arthur Menaker and Richard Bob. Bruno Yonaro,
Lonnie Haven. Danielle Teresa.
We remember as well Rhoda Jacobs and Jeremy Littlefeld. I'd like to invite us now to rise together as one community and to offer these words of mourning on page 294. Page 294. Yitgadal, Yitgadash Shemir Rabba, Be'alma Dibarach Chute, Ve'amlich Malchute, B'chayechon, V'yomechon, Uv'chay Dechol Beit Yisrael, V'agala V'izman Kariv V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mebarach Leolam Olmeil Maya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei D'Kudisha Barichu, Le'elam in kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Aseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. Zichronam libracha. May the memories of those near to us always be a source of blessing. I invite us together to say, Amen. Please be seated. I'd like to invite up a member of our board of directors. I saw him earlier, John Gotts, to offer some of the goings on. Thank you, John. And tell us about some of the things that are happening at Temple Israel in this coming week, inviting us and welcoming us into this community.
Glasses so I can see what they wrote for me. Let's see. Is that any better? Yeah. Okay. I'll eat it. Well, first of all, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good to see all of you here. Thank you very much to our Onyx Shabbat sponsors, Elon and Natalie, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it, but I'm going to say Susan? Okay, I got it right. In honor of their daughter, Guinevere's bat mitzvah. Just another example of the fine education program that we have here at Temple Israel with another amazing bat mitzvah tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, it says we're going to join student Rabbi Fox, so somehow I believe that he's not a student rabbi, but somebody is going to actually lead Torah study tomorrow, and I'm not sure who it is. But Okay. I'm just telling you what I'm reading. So Rabbi will lead Torah study beginning at 8:45. It's offered both in person and on Zoom if you can't be here in person. And it's held in the Alban Hall, the small hall. Tomorrow morning at 10:30, the temple is going to celebrate the Bat Mitzvah of Guinevere, and a Mazel Tov, and congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to all of you. This Sunday, November 24th at 10 o'clock, we do have a Joys of Jewish Learning Jewish Studio Project Workshop. It's going to be a mix of discussion and brief facilitated hands-on experiences with basic art materials. So come and be ready for that. They're going to explore ways in which we might reclaim our creativity. For some of us, we don't have any, so it'd probably be a good way to reclaim. Also, on Sunday night at 7 o'clock, they are going to have an interfaith Thanksgiving service, and as I'm sure we all know, this is a good time for us all to give thanks together. Look in your programs that you were handed as you came in tonight. There's many classes and programs that are available. They meet weekly. Make sure you take a look at the calendar at tilb.org. And if you have any questions, please feel free to call the temple office and ask questions and sign up for some of the programs. And I'd be remiss in my position on the board if I didn't mention for you all to put on your calendar April the 5th, because we're going to have our annual temple gala, and it's going to be a fun 50s theme, so get your poodle skirts out, and let's all have a good time. And that's all. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Well, we're going to conclude our service this evening with words that I think might be familiar to many of us, and we have a tradition at Temple Israel as well of concluding our service with our closing prayer. And so for those who choose, I'd like to invite us to please rise. And if you are, I'm looking around, I don't see too many people really by themselves, but if you're by yourself, go ahead and join next to somebody near to you. And for those who choose, go ahead and place an arm on the shoulders of the person next to you. Let's be together as we offer this closing prayer.
Shalom imonam, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu. Al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom. Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
Yashar Koach, and it is so good to hear the beautiful organ with the incredible hands and music of our very own David York. And thank you to our very own Cantor Marvin Finnley for bringing in our holiday this evening, wishing all of us a very, very sweet Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
And thank you to David up there.